How badly is Europe affected by fertilizer shortages due to the Iran war? European Union agriculture ministers are meeting in Brussels to discuss the availability of fertilizer as the war on Iran disrupts global supply chains. The talks come as the European Commission pushes a new fertilizer action plan aimed at supporting farmers who face a significant rise in costs for fertilizers. It is hoped the measures could boost agricultural production and reduce Europe's dependence on food imports. The plan includes possible fertilizer stockpiles, emergency support for farmers, and measures to increase imports from countries other than Russia and Belarus, which are involved in the war with Ukraine. It comes amid disruption in the Strait of Hormuz caused by the US-Israel war on Iran. The vital shipping route normally carries about one-third of the world's seaborne fertilizer trade, raising fears that rising fuel and fertilizer costs could place further pressure on farmers already struggling with high expenses. While the EU is less directly impacted by fertilizer shortages than some other parts of the world, disruptions to supplies have exposed divisions within the bloc about how to protect food supplies and shield farmers from rising costs. How exposed is Europe? Europe imports large volumes of fertilizer, bringing in 2 million tons of ammonia, 5.8 million tons of urea, and 6.7 million tons of nitrogen fertilizers and mixtures in 2024, according to EU data. The EU also produces its own nitrogen fertilizer, but this depends heavily on imported gas. When conflicts in the Gulf region pushes up gas prices, it also makes fertilizer made inside Europe more expensive. The blockade has raised concerns over global food security, particularly in Africa and South Asia, where countries are more dependent on Gulf supplies. The Middle East accounts for only about 3% of the EU's ammonia imports and 1 to 2% of its nitrogen fertilizer imports, so the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz has not significantly affected European supplies. But the bloc is still being hit through higher global prices and rising energy costs because European nitrogen fertilizer is made using gas, which has increased in price due to the disruption in the strait, while some countries are more at risk to rising costs due to low stockpiles. Nitrogen fertilizer prices in Europe are now about 70% above their 2024 average, according to reporting on the Commission's plan. That vulnerability became clear after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, when soaring gas prices forced several European fertilizer plants to scale back or temporarily shut down because production was no longer profitable. The Commission says its new plan combines immediate measures to improve affordability and security of supply with longer-term steps to strengthen domestic production and reduce dependence on imports. What is the EU proposing? The plan includes emergency financial support for farmers through the EU agricultural budget, liquidity schemes, and more flexible advance payments under the Common Agricultural Policy. The Commission is also looking at ways to support farmers who reduce their reliance on synthetic fertilizers, including through bio-based alternatives and more efficient fertilizer use. In a second measure, the EU has moved to suspend duties on some nitrogen fertilizers, including urea and ammonia, from countries other than Russia and Belarus. Some nitrogen fertilizer imports currently face tariffs of between 5.5 and 6.5%. The Reuters news agency reported that the suspension could save importers about 60 million euros, 68 m. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the plan was aimed at building a stronger European fertilizer industry while supporting farmers and accelerating sustainable, homegrown solutions. But Irish Agriculture Minister Martin Heydon warned that rising fertilizer prices caused by the Middle East crisis would affect the cost of food production and the competitiveness of European farmers. The rise in fertilizer prices as a result of the Middle East crisis will impact on the cost of food production and, consequently, on the economic sustainability and competitiveness of European farmers, he said. Which countries are most exposed? The impact is not evenly spread across Europe, with Ireland particularly vulnerable because it has little domestic fertilizer production and depends heavily on imports. Its livestock-heavy farming system also relies on nitrogen fertilizer for grassland, with many farmers buying supplies between February and September. Ireland imported 1.7 million tons of fertilizer in 2025, leaving farmers exposed to international price swings. Other countries are better prepared. Finland has long maintained security of supply stockpiles that include fertilizer, grain, and fuel. Sweden has also announced plans to stockpile fertilizer, seeds, and grain as part of its total defense strategy.